Hey everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back again today to talk about a Star Trek book. That's right, we have finished up our Strange New Worlds book for the month here, and this is Toward the Night by James Swallow, New York Times best-selling author James Swallow. Now, I did read his book, what was it, The Dark Veil. That was a Star Trek Picard novel, and I did enjoy that, so I knew going in that, he knew what he was doing. He would write a decent book, and I would get another new Star Trek story to put into my brain, right? And that's exactly what I got here. And man, he did hit a lot of the. I don't know. I don't really have a checklist, but there's just certain things that are very fun to see in a Star Trek novel. Some of the things that I really enjoy are lost ships, especially like lost ships out of time, that kind of thing. That's very cool. Uh, Interesting looks at ancient civilizations. Uh, this has a lot of that, and it's got a very sometimes with these Star Trek books, you're either kind of like it's more focused on planet side adventure, or it's more focused on what's going on the ship. This one I do feel does a fairly good job of kind of dividing that. I would say almost right down the middle, where you do have your away team. That's like your A plot, and then you have what's going on the ship on the B plot, and both of those are interesting and exciting, and kind of hitting back and forth off of each other. And each of them also has their own little themes that they add to the checklist, right? For instance, if you are someone who likes to read a Star Trek novel because you want to, get into some interesting space combat, right? This has some of that. Now, if you're looking for a good Star Trek novel because you want to see an away team battle against some vicious alien bugs on a planet, you've got that too. And okay, so for you Strange New Worlds fans, this also is I would say an Ortegas heavy book, which I really enjoyed too. I would say probably one of my favorite of the like original characters, that they brought. Of course, we all know most of the rest of the cast. We know these characters already, but I like the new characters that they brought in. Mitchell, Ortegas, Pelia. There's more. I can't think of them right now, but I enjoy that the author was able to give her the spotlight in this, and then also work in kind of very cool kind of a not really time travel, but anyway, we'll get into it. Let's read the back. We haven't done that yet. While patrolling the borders of the Klingon Empire, Captain Christopher Pike and the crew of the USS Enterprise record a series of subspace echoes from a planet orbiting a volatile flare star. Ooh. And when Lieutenant Spock and Commander Una Chin Riley lead a landing party to learn more, they discover the ruins of a dead civilization and evidence of starship-grade metals, quite possibly a crash site. Oh, it's getting better. Now, as they continue to investigate the strange signals, Spock and Una find shocking signs of dangerous alien life and remnants of what can only be Federation hardware. Ooh. The trail soon leads Pike and the Enterprise helmswoman's Lieutenant Erica Ortegas deep into the mystery of a lost Starfleet vessel, missing in action for over 90 years, and to a terrible dilemma that will challenge the crew to question their past and their future. Whoa, okay, now it's that was a good little back cover, blurb. It doesn't give away too much, and kind of mentions some of the hooks, the things that actually, like I said, I like the lost ship out of time kind of deal. That's always fun. Trying to figure out what happened, solving that mystery. So, anyway, just general thoughts. Again, I kind of covered this. The author did a great job of giving you kind of all the little pieces that you like to see in a Star Trek book, right? You have your planet side action, you've got your space action, and really I feel kind of, again, you do have Ortegas gets like maybe the focus on it, right? But I mean, I'm saying that, but other characters also did did have things to do and did also get big parts of the story, but a lot did revolve around her. But the author did do a good job of making sure that everyone, they felt true to character first off, and that they all kind of had something to do, something to contribute, and it made it feel again like like the whole crew coming together. Everybody's contributed, everybody's got something to put in, and in the end, it's that everybody's able to do that kind of saves the day, right? So, a very fun book. I would recommend it for anyone who's a fan of Strange New Worlds, or just like I said, anyone who's looking for that kind of basic sci-fi fix, because you're getting all the little pieces of it here. You got them battling ferocious bugs. You've got space battles. You've got this female Klingon commander who was very interesting, and her and number one kind of go back and forth with each other, which is a very fun part of the book as well. So, but without further ado, let's just get into the story, right? Because that's what we do on this channel, and we'll eventually just we'll rant for a certain amount of time, and then we'll be done, and it'll be fun. Oh, it really is. This is like what I like to do the most. I did make some notes, but full transparency, I wrote all these notes today. Man, I am terrible about that. I always say like, oh man, Josh, you better take better notes next time. Man, sometimes I took the best notes, and they were great. But sometimes I can't. I can't bring myself to do it. I also freaking destroyed it. Look at what I've done to this book. Look at this. Look at the mess I've made of this thing. But that's fine. It's my book, and it'll squeeze back up onto the shelf nicely, and nobody's going to know. Except for you, I just showed you all. But anyway. This book is good. It starts out with a very interesting prologue where you have this kind of this lone remaining scientist. I kind of saw him. His name was Keol, Keol, right? And he is accomplishing this great work. And all of his people, every single person on this planet has basically been marching towards this arch that they've built, right? For some reason. They have to. They're going somewhere, and it's they make it evident too that the reason they're leaving is that the planet is killing them. The sun is throwing off intense solar flares, and the planet is no longer livable. Right, so they set up this great work, they call it, and he watches each and every one of his people go into it. Right, to the last person that goes in. And he's the last one, and he's got to like set the controls and set everything right properly, and then he takes one last look at his son, the sun, not his son, but the sun, and then he goes into the great work himself. Right, very interesting prologue. I like the way that they describe the creatures too. I don't know if they get in too much into it there, but they're like like a bear-like alien, humanoid alien, which I think was really cool. But anyway. Cool prologue, gets right into that, and then that kind of leaves you thinking the whole time, what's going on. But then you get right into the story, and this comes in like season 2. Like I think they said, I know they say right after the episode called "Among the Lotus Eaters" or "Charades." These are season 2 episodes. So right around that time, you can picture the Enterprise that's patrolling close to the Klingon Federation border, right? And they pick up something, a signal, a strange something or other, echo, sensor echo, right? And they go to investigate, and they find this planet. I think it's UFC 685, and it is a dead planet. But when they get there, they're able to find, basically they find the Baldwin, the USS Baldwin, and the Baldwin was an NX class ship. I think that comes after Enterprise, so they're like maybe like a warp 5 ship or something like that. But anyway, they were presumed lost 90 years ago, and interestingly enough, of course, we got to have a way to connect it to today. The I think third officer or whatever was one of Ortegas's ancestors, like a great aunt or something like that, right? And it was always a sore spot in her family that she first off left to join Starfleet, and then that she was lost, right? So that adds that interesting little family element to it, which comes up later. Um, and again, this book had, I think, two kind of distinct parts too that I really liked, because it started out first where they're just kind of exploring the present time and things that are going on, and then boom, time travel. I didn't even mention that in the first half. Didn't even mention that. But yes, there is time travel involved here too. I kept it a secret because it's a secret to me until, and to you guys until now. But anyway, yeah, time travel too. But anyway, they go anyway. They go to the ship. Pike, of course, wants to do this himself. You know, he wants to check out this old ship, solve this mystery. So he goes over there with Chapel, Lon, and a couple of red shirts. You know, a science officer, a security officer, I believe, and they begin their investigation. And basically, what they find is that the ship came to this planet. They found this mysterious object. They beamed it aboard, and once they scanned it, and this is Pike finding this out through like the captain's logs, right? All hell breaks loose, and it basically destroys all their ship's systems and forces them to evacuate. Right at this time, Lon and her red shirt buddy find the cargo bay. They find this thing, and it is hit just at the wrong time by like solar radiation. It blasts through them, or actually, it blasts through the red shirt, kills the red shirt, and then nearly kills Lon, and then I think, I hope I'm telling the story right, but basically sends the ship back in time, 100 years or 90 years or whatever, to when I think what it was. I think that they had said that the Baldwin crew had been 2 years evacuated, right? So they realize what has happened, and then they scan the planet, and they find the crew of the Baldwin in their like makeshift camp that they've set up there. And the problem that they have is that Lon is dying, and they need medical supplies. Now they do know that there will be some down on the planet, so they got to go down there, sneak around, and find these medical supplies. And of course, in doing so, they end up getting caught. They lie. They make up a story about being merchant marines. In the end, the whole thing is revealed when one of them finds Lon's comm badge, and they kind of get into it from there. Pike is very leery about wanting to tell them what happened, so they they try to stick to their lie. But then eventually they come clean and tell them who they are, that they're from the future, and that they don't mean them any harm or anything like that, and they're just they're trying to get back, right? And Ortegas is able to kind of convince her great aunt too, by revealing some details about the family, and then they scan and they do the DNA check. But it's I just liked how the story kind of took a turn too, where I wasn't expecting them to get sent back in time and actually meet this crew. And I really liked how that kind of worked out. And I guess I like, it's like, reminds me of Enterprise, right? You get to see another NX-01 crew and kind of how they handled their adversity. And they were really put upon hard, right? As soon as they get down to this planet, a couple years previous to when Pike meets them, they lose their captain, they lose their first officer. The place is overrun with like giant bugs, and I'm thinking like Starship Troopers style, right? If you've seen that, just these swarms of these man-eating non-stop insects, right? So that's what they have to deal with, and also the solar radiation is slowly killing them, and they're eventually going to die. As Pike already knows, because he's found their graves, from the future when he was there. All right, so we're going to pause that story right there for a minute. Go back to the future. Like from the movie. But anyway, back on the ship, Una is in command, right? And she sees the Baldwin disappear. And first off, the Enterprise itself is smacked with this solar radiation and gets really screwed up as well, too. So they've got their own problems to deal with, getting their ship back in order, and then also, starting a rescue operation. And then in the middle of all that, they have this, a Klingon bird of prey, a D7, I think, is that what they say? Come in. It's the Pagor. captained by Commander Chen. Is it Chen or Bren? I think it was Bren. But anyway, she was a very fun character too. Your typical, arrogant, brash Klingon character coming in, and I like how they at this time, Klingon captains kind of out on the frontier. If they did something and it went well, then the Empire would like them. But if they did something and it didn't go very well, then the Empire would be like, "Oh no, we just disown them, and that they did that with no knowledge from us or something." Right? So it's kind of like one of those situations where she has the opportunity to either bring glory to the Empire or bring dishonor to herself, right? So there's a very, very good exchange between her and number one, Una, where Una's able to kind of out talk her, right? And then they have a lovely bit of space battle, a bit of subterfuge, where the Enterprise has got to get away and hide. And again, just lots of little bits of just again what you're looking for in these Star Trek books is just these little situations, just like on the show, right? Where it's just like, Captain, if we hide ourselves in these rings, we can launch a shuttle to lure them away. And just I love these little situations, right? And when they do it so well in a book, where you kind of feel like like you're watching that episode, I think that was really good. So again, both sides of the story, really really well done, very interesting, and it didn't. It went back and forth, at a very good pace. So let's go back to the past with Captain Pike, and again, he's been found out, right? They know who they are now, and one of the crew of the Baldwin screws up. He goes to retrieve Pike's shuttlecraft, but he doesn't shut off the sensors. So when he brings this thing in, all of the bugs come after them too. So now comes the battle part of the story, right? Where the crew of the Baldwin has to join up with the crew of the Enterprise as they battle through these bugs. During the battle, Chapel is taken by a bug. Lon is taken by a bug. I think a couple of the crew of the Baldwin also taken by bugs, right? And they're not. They're gonna go get them, right? But it's a very scary moment. And again, the bugs and the battle with the bugs is very reminiscent of Starship Troopers, with lots of just like they're tearing just giant swarms of them coming, and just they're tearing them apart with their phasers, and a very, and also just for me it was very, I didn't know he was going to go there in this book, and I'm glad that we got to have the big bug battle. That was good. But of course, Pike is not going to leave his crew behind. They know, the crew of the Baldwin know where they take people. The bugs have a nest, and the nest is, of course, at this citadel. The citadel could be important, don't you think? So they go there. They have a plan. Ortegas is the pilot of the shuttlecraft, and she does a fantastic job. She's able to get them in there, and basically I'm telling out of turn. Pike and Ortegas do come to the rescue, but first, Chapel, Lon, and the two Baldwin crew, they wake up in the bug nest, and they have to work their way kind of down through the citadel, through the holes, past all these bug larvae, which are described as having rows and rows of undulating sharp teeth, and they're literally moving giant piles of larvae chasing them. So again, very cool, very good imagery here, as they move to escape that. And then right at the very last moment, when things seem their darkest, of course, here comes Pike blasting his way in to save the day, right? Now, back to the future again. Spock has got a plan. He's scanned some things, he's scanned the planet, and he thinks that he has a way of sending a message back to the past, because he has already surmised at this point that they've been sent back to the past. So he's going to use this arch in the Citadel, and he's going to send a holographic message into it that will propagate itself backwards into the past, right? I don't know. It works, though. It works. Pike gets the message. basically what they have to do is reactivate this arch. And of course, the arch is the arch that was in the prologue of the book. I'm at 20 minutes already. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. But the arch of the keyhole, that all these people went into, right? So Spock has a plan. He's already scanned this arch and he realizes what it is. I thought it was like a gateway, right? That's kind of what they make you think. No, it's like a transporter buffer. So they're all just kind of in there in stasis waiting until their planet comes back around, right? There's a whole part I didn't even get into where Uhura kind of solves the planet's language and is able to be like, no, these people are tied to their home. They would never leave it. So, and then that kind of leads Spock into finding, them in the arch, which is the idea then to tell Pike and crew to go into the arch. But what do they do with the Baldwin crew? Well, unfortunately, they lost a couple of them in the bug battle, bravely, right? But her aunt and I think another doctor and a couple more than a couple more. It seemed like by the end there was actually more than I thought there were. But anyway, they all go into the arch together and are in stasis for 94 years when Spock brings them back out. And there's a funny line when Ortegas comes out and she's like, "You science guys, you did it." I like that. But yeah, they bring them back out. They're safe and sound, and then they're going to find some way to, I guess, reintegrate them into Starfleet. Oh, the ship battle. Very fun ending to that. The Enterprise was outgunned. They were kind of at the end of their rope. So Una, number one, she tricks the Klingon captain into beaming the spherical thing aboard her ship. And once she does, that thing freaking activates when they scan it. Boom. And it sends her, I like this part too, quite literally into the middle of next week. So she's like, again, she's displaced in time, and the ship and all her crew were sent into the future. And I like that. I think Palia made the comment. She was like, "Commander, you quite literally knocked her into the middle of next week." And she's going to have a kind of a weird thing happening when she comes out of there. The Enterprise is gone, and she's going to have to explain what the heck happened to her, during that time. So, boy, it was a fun book. And I know it was a fun book because here I am already. I'm talking about it for 22 minutes. And there was other stuff in here that I could even tell you guys about. But for the sake of time, we will call it here. I think we covered all the main points. It had a fun little epilogue, too, where you go all the way up to far future Discovery time with Captain Michael Burnham and I think Sylvia Tilly and Booker as they come and they visit the keyhole when their planet is finally ready, right? And they introduce themselves and they're like, and like it's very I like how they tied that all together. And I liked also just at the end, you also got to see the completion of this planet's great work, right? And again, that's a very interesting sci-fi idea. Your planet is unstable. Your sun is killing your people. It will eventually right itself, but you don't know when. You could build ships and you could leave your planet. But this people, where their home was ingrained into them, it wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even something that could be a possibility of them leaving. And that's something that Uhura had figured out, right? So that was very interesting. And so they built this giant stasis, right? And imagine all these people, just marching into this thing. And then, boom. For them, instantaneous, but, thousands of years pass. They come out of it, and their planet has righted itself, right? It was a good ending. It was a very good ending to a very good book, and a very fun time talking about it here with you guys. So, yeah, let's go. As always, thanks for watching. Live long and prosper, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night.